Welcome. Carolyn and I are excited to talk with you about the importance of staying connected to combat loneliness and social isolation. Angela is unable to be with us this morning due to a recent loss of a very close friend, unfortunately. We kindly ask that you keep her in your thoughts. We have turned your videos off just as a courtesy because we are going to record this presentation. So if you just keep your videos off, we greatly appreciate it. Carolyn, will you advance? Thank you. Carolyn Everidge is an educator in Huntington County. Angela covers DeKalb, and I cover LaGrange. If at any point during this discussion you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat box, and we'll discuss them later on in the presentation, and I'll monitor those. We also are requesting that you give us feedback by completing a survey at the end of this session. I'm going to provide you with more information about a link, and if you want to text a number and you can receive your survey that way, we have a couple of different options for you. Again, thank you for joining us today in today's Active Aging presentation. Take it away, Carolyn.
Thanks, Brittany. So like Brittany said, my name is Carolyn Everidge, and I am the Health and Human Sciences educator in Huntington County. So today we are talking about staying connected and active aging, and how that plays a major role in keeping our health and well-being stable. So I just want to give a little background before we kind of talk about ways to prevent loneliness and social isolation. So as we age, our circumstances in life tend to change. We may retire, our friends may move away, we may experience health issues that kind of restrict our ability to do things we once were able to. And when we experience all these changes, we may not fully realize just how much the ability to stay connected and engaged impacts our overall health and well-being. So a lot of different studies have shown us that we need social connection to thrive. In fact, older adults who describe themselves as lonely have a 59% greater risk of functional decline and a 45% greater risk of death. An estimated 1 in 5 adults over the age of 50 are affected by social isolation. That's over 8 million people. It's a very common thing that we experience as we age. And while social isolation has its obvious cons, prolonged isolation can actually be as bad for your health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. When I heard about that, I was pretty astonished because I didn't think that social isolation would have such a high impact on our actual physical health, but it does. Additionally, isolation and loneliness are associated with high rates of chronic health conditions, weakened immune systems, depression and anxiety, and dementia. So knowing all of these health impacts of social isolation and loneliness, it's important to really consider those risk factors. Living alone is the #1 biggest factor for loneliness and social isolation. While 29% of people 65 and older live alone, twice as many women live alone as men, and almost 50% of women 75 and older live alone. Other risk factors for social isolation and loneliness include having mobility or sensory impairment, experiencing major life transition or loss, living with limited financial resources, even being a caregiver is one of those risk factors for loneliness and social isolation. And especially with individuals who live in rural or unsafe neighborhoods. So we know that social isolation is bad for our health. We know that it has all of these different contributors to our health and our well-being. So we're going to talk about a couple different ways for you to stay connected. So the first way is to really just find some kind of activity that you enjoy or even learn something new. So in the time of COVID, we've been experiencing a lot of changes in how we are able to stay connected. So consider having virtual coffee dates, having phone calls with people that you might have similar interests with. If you participate in an activity that's been temporarily postponed due to COVID, finding ways to still be in contact with those individuals that you had that activity with, or even revisiting a hobby that you once had. So a lot of people are revisiting some textile crafts or card writing or other hobbies that were kind of on the back burner because of the busyness and the hustle and bustle of our days. So one way to really fight social isolation and loneliness is to learn a new activity or to revisit something that you once enjoyed. So going along with that, there are a couple other ideas or ways that you can prevent social isolation and loneliness. At least in my area, so I know we've got people from all over Northeast Indiana joining us today. There are local gyms that are offering online exercise programs where you can still get the physical activity from the comfort and the safety of your own home. And even doing that, you're connecting with other individuals who are also enjoying that activity. So you're still having that connection as well. It's not a very nice day here. It's rather gloomy and rainy. But with the last few warm days left of the season, consider going outside, taking a walk, enjoying nature. Anything that gets you physically moving will help decrease your stress. It's going to boost your mood and even increase your energy. So like I said, really finding those different activities that you are comfortable with, but finding ways to stay connected as well. Perhaps the thing that's most important during a pandemic is staying in touch with your family, friends, and loved ones. And this can be done in a variety of different ways. It can be done through a Zoom call like we're doing today. While we have your cameras turned off, this is still something that you were able to do on your own. There are free platforms out there, whether this is engaging with your loved ones through social media platforms, phone calls, even those old-fashioned letters are ways that you can stay connected to your family. I know when the beginning of the pandemic started, there were a lot of individuals who were suddenly not able to see their family and friends. And so a lot of different technologies have come out since then. People have had outdoor visits, outdoor coffee dates, even talking through a glass. So there are lots of different ways that you can stay in touch with your friends and family and loved ones through different technology and things like that. Another way for you to stay engaged and connected is to continue to participate in these active aging webinars for the next couple of weeks. There is an opportunity at the end of today's call to have questions and discussion and even just have some back and forth about ways that you might know that have helped you stay connected and not experiencing isolation. This is just a fun thing that you can do as well to stay connected and not experience loneliness. Adopting a pet. So sometimes this is something we're not able to do. I lived in an apartment for a very long time, was unable to have a pet. So I really engaged with nature. I would go on a lot of nature walks and just watch the birds. But if you're in a situation where you can adopt a pet, animals can be such a great source of comfort, and studies have shown that having a comfort animal
You might have to take that out in the other room.
can lower stress and blood pressure as well. So one of our co-presenters, Angela, who is unable to be here today, this is her dog, Claire, and we have a little video that we're going to show of Claire just talking, and it's a little silly. And then our other presenter, Brittany, who spoke at the beginning, has her pet, and she's going to show us her pet as well. So we'll start with this little video, and then I'll ask Brittany to come with Soph.
Hi, my name is Claire, and I am one of those pets who make my human feel better. I may look like I can only play, sit, go potty, eat, drink, and sleep, but there is a whole lot of health benefits for humans wrapped up inside this fur. We hope you enjoyed our program.
Brittany, do you have Soph available to visit with us?
Yes, I do. This is my cat, Sophie. I apologize, she doesn't like being held very well, but throughout COVID, as my husband and I were stuck at home, we got full enjoyment out of our crazy cat. We both are dog lovers, by nature, but we brought Sophie home and she has been a hoot. And just the funny things that cats do, for those of you who have cats, as she's pawing me in the face, she's very entertaining.
Thanks, Brittany. So before we kind of wrap things up, I do want to open it up in the chat box if you want to comment something that you have found to be helpful for avoiding social isolation or loneliness, especially during these last several months where our whole worlds have kind of turned upside down. What kind of things have you all experienced or tried to do to help combat some of that isolation and loneliness during COVID?
Okay.
I see we have some responses popping up in the chat box. Brittany, would you mind sharing what those are?
Yes, absolutely. So I put in the chat box, it's called Jackbox, and that's just one option. There's a lot of different options that you can find online as far as like playing games. So you can pull up a Zoom session like we're doing right now, and you can play games with other people virtually. And it sounds crazy, but it is a ton of fun. And my husband and I, and of course the cat, have had full enjoyment out of that as well throughout this pandemic. So that's how we have stayed socially engaged with family and friends. Christina shared that she enjoys taking walks outside with her dogs. Leah contributed coloring and sending pages to loved ones as a pick-me-up. Those little small short letters do wonders and go a long way.
I love that. So some of the things that I did during the pandemic, so I was working from home for several months, and I actually found myself taking more and more walks during the day and really just getting that physical activity going. Even though I may have been walking by myself, I would still see people out on the trail walking with or around me, and we would smile and say hi to each other, and that really, just that little bit of social connection really helped boost my mood. And I did want to comment on the coloring and sending cards to loved ones. I think that's a great idea. I mentioned the quote, old-fashioned letters as an idea to stay connected with your family and friends. But I know that a lot of places have really enjoyed receiving those, especially when visitors are not able to come to medical facilities and things like that. So that's just one way to keep really connected with those people that you may not be able to visit anymore at this time.
Pete said jigsaw puzzles. And Abigail from Noble County Extension contributed Zoom sessions with the entire family. So still being able to see your family, especially as the holidays approach, is a great way to engage if you're not able to see some of your family members, because that's so important. Kidani said staying connected via virtual coffee and phone calls. Pete again said volunteer opportunities. So again, great ways to stay connected with everyone because it is so important. Barb said we walk around the neighborhood most evenings and get to visit with neighbors or walking in their yards, or working in their yards, I'm sorry.
Thank you all so much for sharing some of the ideas and the things that you've been doing. So even though, you know, we're really talking about active aging and how we stay connected as we grow older, the pandemic has really changed how we think about isolation and loneliness. So this is such a timely topic. And I love that there are all these creative ideas out there that you all have been engaging in to help prevent some of that social isolation and loneliness. Before we move to the evaluation that Brittany had mentioned at the beginning, I do want to open it up to see if there are any questions or comments from any of the participants today. Okay, well, if there's not any questions, we'll go ahead and move on to the evaluation, and I'll let Brittany speak a little bit more about that.
So moving into the evaluation, your feedback is greatly helpful in improving program content and the quality of this program. Since during this pandemic, we have tried to shift a lot of our programming via virtual, and I think we've done a great job in doing that, but getting your feedback around this kind of stuff is still very helpful for us. And maybe anything of what we could improve, what you liked, things like that, what you learned. So your impact is greatly appreciated. You can take your cell phone and go ahead and text the phone number that's on your screen, and the survey code will be in the text message, or you can go to this website, and I will drop the website in the chat box so you can just click it and you can fill it out via that way. Whatever is easier for you. Again, we greatly appreciate your feedback.
I'll also add real quick, if you're unable to take this survey right now, it will be included in the PowerPoint. We will be sending out the slides, as well as a handout that kind of talks a little bit further about the information we discussed today. That'll be sent to anyone that participated today in an email, I believe tomorrow, or sometime in the next couple of days. So be on the lookout for that. We do want to remind everyone that there is another active aging session next week. It is about physical activity, same time, Thursday at 9:30, and hopefully you're able to join us for that. If you didn't register already, you still can register, and that information is available in the emails that you'll receive. And just to wrap up, this is our contact information. If you have any questions regarding today's program, or any other questions about programming that we offer through the Extension office, feel free to reach out to us. And we'll stay on for a couple more minutes if anyone has questions, but we really appreciate you joining us today.
I will add, I want to challenge all of you on this Zoom call to find one new way that you can incorporate something that you learned today into what you're experiencing in life right now. So how can you stay socially connected by something that you learned today? Whether it was something that we talked about from the chat box, or maybe it's getting a new furry friend. Thank you again for joining us today. We greatly appreciate it.
Like I mentioned, you will receive these PowerPoint slides, and we do have some different resources about preventing loneliness and social isolation, different active aging resources. So this will be included in your email that you receive. Thank you, everyone.
That concludes today's presentation. Hope to see you on Thursday next week.